You're like vertical.
Oh yeah, he's sideways.
Thomas
So I'll
is.
just turn and look at Thomas like this.
Hey guys, this is the live show of Beyond the Deal. This is a first in a series that we're going to be coming to you every other week. So we expect you to just keep coming back to join us. And we're just going to build the athlete, the foundation brick by brick. And so today we're going to start with the foundation, which is character, which I'm super excited about. So, with that, we're going to get into making introductions of who's here. We love to get into who's your background, all the things. This is your opportunity to connect with the audiences, and we will get started there. We have one more person joining us. So, we'll take it from there. So, with that, KJ, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Awesome. So thank you, Aaron. My name is KJ Peoples. I'm from the great state of Texas. And I kind of work in two spaces. I work in the financial space. I do a lot of pre-retirement and retirement income planning and tax efficiency strategies to build wealth. And then on the flip side of that, I work with athletes doing athlete development and things of that nature. Um, Formerly, I played college football. I played sports my whole life. I dove into this space because I seen the need to educate athletes with this new NIL era that is coming in. And I connected with great people like A Ray and Aaron. And we're here to bring you guys as much information as we can. We're here to help you guys and also just connect with you guys and see where we can help.
Awesome.
I,
Okay, A Ray.
yeah. How you guys doing? My name is Aaron Ray, or you can call me A Ray. We have two Aarons on here, so sometimes it just makes it a little bit easier. And yeah, so I'm also a former college athlete. I ran track back in the day. Um, and yeah, I went to law school fairly shortly afterwards, Santa Clara Law. So I am from the great state of California. You know, currently I reside in Southern California, and I do have a background in tax. So I got my tax LLM right after graduating law school. I actually started in public accounting. I worked in mergers and acquisitions and state and local tax for, I don't know, about 5 6 years now. And it was interesting, but I got the itch for being around athletes, being around sports again. That was why I went to law school, to work with athletes. NIL kind of came about, and I thought I had a kind of unique background in tax and some legal work, and some accounting work. So I thought, I might as well help and try to educate, and best as I can. And so, I'm here, and hopefully I can provide some knowledge. Hopefully we can provide some knowledge to to help current student athletes, to help their families, schools. I connected with a lot of great people throughout my journey, and so I'm glad I can pay it forward.
Awesome. Yeah, we have two experts with us. So Thomas and I, hopefully Thomas will be joining us here in a moment. We focus on the character development piece of it. So my background is I spent 20 plus years in corporate America as an executive strategist and consultant. Focusing on maximizing human performance with executives. And what brought me to the NIL and athlete space was I'm the mom of two athletes. My daughter plays softball and my son plays football. You'll see their pictures on the slide today. So I'm not paying them for their name, image, and likeness because I'm their mother. I'm sure someday they'll want to reap the benefits, but right now, this is what you got. So Thomas was able to join us. He's my co-founder at Blueprint to Blue Chip. Thomas, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, team. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Everything was going fine, and we're having technical difficulties on my side, and I apologize for that. But this isn't the first time I my co-founder Aaron has bailed me out of a tight spot, and I don't think it'll be the last one. So hopefully we won't get too many hiccups. You had the opportunity to hear from Aaron, KJ, and Aaron. Aaron, we're going to have an awesome opportunity for you guys tonight to learn so much about who we are and what we are. Aaron probably mentioned.
Okay.
Looks like Thomas's mic is down. He's having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Yes, he has some technical difficulties. So with that, when he joins us, we're gonna get this resolved. We're gonna get this taken away. One thing, we'll just keep moving. He'll jump in when he can. So it's always great to have my co-host here. He does a great job. So I might be a little lagged when it comes to fielding all the questions and getting them to the right person on the panel. But what I would say is, I'd love to start off with just, let's talk about what character is. Most character definition, I think it's really confused. I think oftentimes people associate character with being a good person, saying the right things, working hard in practice. That's not necessarily character. That's your image. That's you trying to manage who other people think you are. Character is at the essence of who God made you to be, and how you're meant to show up in this world. And so we focus on, at Blueprint to Blue Chip, one of our acronyms that we use for our character work is called we have CATI, and it's called Character Over Clout. And ultimately, it really is about, how do you focus on who you are over the image that you're trying to portray. And so I think character is the heart of everything we do before anything else. I would love for you guys to hop in, talk a little bit about character, how you guys see character, and then I'm going to get all of our technical difficulties worked out here. So I sincerely apologize.
No, you're all good. For me, character, like Aaron said, is more so who you are internally. I think a lot of times people get caught up in, trying to say all the right things and do all the right things to appease the people around them. They want to kind of have that viewpoint of, oh, I'm a good person, or whatever the case may be. But that's not really your character. Your character is just how you show up every single day, whether you feel bad, you're having a good day, or you're tired. Especially when you're tired and having a bad day, that's when your character is going to show up. So in the framework I like to use is CASH. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's what I think character is just how you show up every single day, no matter how you feel. So that's what I would say is character to me.
And KJ, to that point, I know you do, kind of work with a lot of athletes. How does character, how does it show up in either your everyday, or, how, what does that look like for you, and the importance of it in terms of an athlete, not just a young athlete? If you do work with young athletes, like, does it, really apply to young athletes or college athletes? How do you see character playing a role?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think character shows up differently in different age groups. I think in my younger kids, it shows up in more so a confidence matter, because when I'm working with them, they're kind of learning new things and they're feeling things out, and they can get frustrated. And sometimes I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, no, we're going to figure it out and we're going to get it right. That's just instilling in them that, ability to overcome obstacles. So I think overcoming obstacles with my younger group is more important. And then in my older groups, middle school, high school, college, I think it shows up with them in their decision-making process. Because sometimes if they're an athlete that says, hey, I want to go play college football, right? I always tell them being an athlete is a lifestyle. You can't one day be an athlete and then the other day you don't want to be an athlete, right? It's not how it works. And I think for them, it shows up being able to balance, their work habits in terms of working out and being an athlete, and then also their personal life with their friends who maybe don't want to be athletes, right? So, sometimes I say, hey, I'm not coming to workouts today. I'm gonna go do this with my friends. I'm like, that's understandable, but you have to sit down and think, are their goals aligned with where you're trying to go?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it kind of sounds selfish in a sense, but at the end of the day, like, it's your life, it's your decisions that you need to make. And I think that's just teaching them how to be adults, right? Because everybody in your life, your mom, your dad, your cousins, everybody's going to have their own thing that they want you to do. And then that's what you want to do. You have to be able to, maneuver to that. And I think working with them, that's one of the things I see with my older kids, is just navigating life.
Awesome. You said a few things, but Aaron, I want to commend you and Thomas for kind of starting off and kind of highlighting character and it really being a core foundation as you are an athlete and kind of go on with your athletic career, be it high school, college, or the professional. And I think why it plays such a key role and why character is important, because now we do have NIL, right? And part of NIL is some of these kids are receiving large sums of money, and just like KJ said, in his older athletes, it's the decision making is what's important. And we've seen it time and time again with professional athletes, and teams are hesitant to give a young player a big contract or that contract extension because are they mature enough? Are they a type of athlete that's just going to blow it? How do they spend the money that they are receiving, or what are they going to do with it? Are they a person who's going to receive these funds and be, not try as hard or not put it forth the effort? Or, are they a person where when they receive these funds, they don't let it change them? And I think that's character building. I think that starts earlier on. I think that starts with the mindset and building that character and understanding that it's not just about your athletic ability anymore. A lot of it is, man, can I pay this 5-star athlete, this 17-year, can I pay him $500,000 and then still get proper performance from them with all this other stuff going on, right? That goes to character, that points to character. And so I definitely think that character is important, and why, which we thought it was important as well, why we're having it being our first kind of show, our first kind of foundational piece. And, because Aaron and Thomas, they're so, they understand the importance of it. They've created a whole entire program and curriculum, surrounding it. So, again, I do think it is important.
Yeah, you got to get people anchored in, and I've seen it at different levels, but it's like, if we can start younger, getting people anchored in of like, who are you? And then to your point, Aaron, how do you make every decision from that person that you are and the person you want to be? Like, you cannot negotiate with your future person. So every decision you make, whether it's what KJ talked about, every rep that you decide to do or not do, how you show up in every moment. I can think of the example right now of that young man at Texas Tech that got a really nice $5 million deal, and he decided that gambling was more important than towing the line. And now he will not be playing football anymore. So like those micro decisions, you think that they don't matter, they matter big time, and they're going to become only that much more amplified. And so we believe at Blueprint to Blue Chip, character is a muscle that you can train. It just like you can train your muscles on the field, you can train your muscle this off the field, but it requires a lot of discipline, similar to the discipline it takes to be on the field and doing every rep, to ensure that you are trained up, that when the moment of like, hey, do you want to bet on this game? We'll just stick with the betting example. Do you do it or do you not do it? To KJ's point, my other friends don't do this. How do you then make decisions based on the people that you're around? And how do you become the positive influence on them? Not necessarily to get into sports or whatever, but to go, okay, I have to be disciplined. You can be an example for your fellow friends of like, no matter what you do in life, you want to become a doctor, a dentist, you name it, it's going to require some discipline. So you can set an example now as a young individual to set that standard, which I think is like what we have to help these young individuals really hone in on. And to your point, Aaron, earlier, now with NIL, character matters more than it probably ever did before, because people are putting themselves out there as a brand.
Yeah.
And Aaron, how early do you recommend, student athletes or parents or their support system kind of start thinking about, I guess either character or character traits, or or if maybe some athletes are showing signs of, maybe their character isn't the strongest. When should they start to, kind of, I guess, shift that mindset?
I would say the earlier, the better. I think too young is hard because it's like, I don't think they know who they are. It's like, I'm just young, I'm having fun. I like my sport, but I think it's starting to have conversations around who you are. I'd say your sweet spot's probably 8th grade to 9th grade, because you got to get them before they really start to form too many habits. They got their social circles around them. And I think if you work with the younger, you got to really engage the parents along the way, because they've got to be help formulating those questions, and how do they point them back to, well, is this decision who you want to be? I think sometimes as with the younger athletes that we've worked with, it's like, well, my parents are just making me do this. And so they don't make that connection versus like, okay, this interests me. And so I think depending on the maturity of the individual or the athlete, you can be 8th grade, that 13, 14 age. And then I think the sweet spot is that 15, 16-year-old, because they're starting to think about like well beyond where they're at. But the other thing that's critical that we do that I think differs us from everybody else is we also work and coach with the parents. What's your character? How are you showing up? Because you have to be the one that then kind of is holding space and not providing all the answers, but guiding them to understand who they're meant to become. And that's probably been one of my greatest lessons as a parent, is like telling them what to do is not as effective as getting them to see what's the right thing to do and getting really curious with them. And so I've had to learn, how to be a more effective parent, especially as they become teenagers, because you want to just tell them what to do, because you're like, dang, I've been here. I don't do that shit. But it's like, okay, what are the consequences? Have you thought through this? Like, what's the good that could come out of this? What's the bad that can come out of this? And you have a risk reward here. And what's your choice?
Yeah. And I think to kind of further that along, I think the earlier you can allow them to start to make like small decisions, the better, because then they start to correlate, oh, if I make this decision, this is the type of outcome I can get. So I think the earlier you allow them to maybe have a choice of this or that and let them choose, and it doesn't have to be anything like major, but like just little like small things. I think that's going to help them as they transition to those teenage years, because I think sometimes parents, like you said, they want to tell their kid what to do. And then the kids become parent deaf, and they're like, oh, it's just mom and dad telling me to, whatever. Right. Which is why it's important to maybe get them outside of the parents. Right. Which is why we have things like this, like Blueprints or Blue Chip, so they can talk with somebody else. Right. Because I know there's a lot of parents out there like, I tell my kid this all the time. And it's like right message, wrong messenger.
Yep.
I think parents have to be okay with like letting other trusted people, talk with their kids and help them navigate through those things.
Yeah. It's going to take a village here, all you listeners, to raise this next generation. It's not just the parents that are going to be responsible. And that's why I think we've started this, is we have a trusted network of people that I would trust. How I discern if everybody that is watching, how do I decide if I want to work, let's say with Aaron or KJ? My filter is what I trust my kids with them. And 100%, I would send either of my kids to either one of you for tax advice, character advice, any of that. So that's my filter of how I decide who's going to be in my network, what I trust my kids, and what I trust them to give them sound advice. And so, that's, I think, important. We do have a question here that came through. So this is from a student athlete. It says, every time I face real pressure, big game, conflict with coaches, tough loss, I see a version of myself I don't like. I get selfish, I get defensive, I shut down. How do I change who pressure reveals when there's been my pattern for years? So basically, I think there's a lot of self-recognition here of who you are. KJ, Aaron, weigh in here. Obviously he's very aware, I'm getting defensive, I'm taking things personally. What advice would you give this young man that seems a little short fused, is how I'd sum it up?
Yeah, man. And you already kind of made the first step, which is identifying you have a pattern, right? And the next thing is identifying why you act that way, right? Is it because you feel like you let somebody down? Is it because you feel like you're not going to reach your goals, whatever those may be? That would be the next step, because once you identify why you're acting that way, and not just oh my God, I want to win. Everybody wants to win, but why do you want to win? Was it something in your childhood, or and this is a deeper question, because you have to really dive deep into why you act that way. And honestly, that's going to take a lot of work, and just kind of having conversations with people about your upbringing. And it's going to be tough. I'm going to be honest. I've been through those type of conversations where I'm I get angry, but why am I getting angry? I don't even know why I get angry. It just kind of happens. And you have to just sit down and really go back and why do I feel this way? And put yourself in hard positions. Whenever, it doesn't have to be practice. It can be, for example, I do running. I hate long distance running. Right. So I will force myself 2 times a week to run 3 or 4 miles, because I hate doing it. Right. So you have to put yourself in positions to overcome things you don't want to do, and put yourself in pressure situations. And as far as performing on the field, it just comes from confidence. I'm going to be honest with you. You just haven't put in enough reps to be confident in those moments to where it's this is just what I do. Right. So that's what I would say to that.
That's great.
First and foremost, I ditto everything what KJ said, but, I think more importantly is I commend you for holding yourself accountable. And as KJ said, being able to identify, hey, this is where I struggle, or this is where I fall short, where yes, I'm competitive, but man, sometimes it goes over, the top and it's too much. So kind of, how do I dial that back down, right? How do I find that balance? And I think it's just that finding the balance, as KJ said, kind of what kind of gets my competitive juices going, and why can't I kind of turn that off, I think is the first thing to try to figure out. But also, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but being able to guide it in a positive direction. Being able to hone and harness that frustration, that that anger, whatever it is, that passion, and being able to then kind of turn it into something that I can, positive, that I can kind of use that to perform with. And so I think it's about identifying, B, holding yourself accountable, but but also just trying different things to try to help balance yourself out, when you are again competing after that high of competing is over, right? Trying to, again, finding that balance to kind of bring you back down. And it could be simple as breathing, right? Breathing exercises or mindfulness meditation. I know that was something that Kobe Bryant used a lot, was just really mindfulness and just kind of being in the moment, not worried about what's happening before or after or the actual pressure, just kind of focusing in on what you have to do and just let it go from there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have another question that came through. So this has to do with brand deals. Aaron, I know you're more experienced as a lawyer. What are brands actually looking for on the back end when they vet athletes? And KJ obviously jump in too, but I think people have questions of like, what else are they looking for beyond the highlight reels and just stats?
It's interesting. This question is interesting because I think that I think brands are hesitant to reach out to a lot of athletes, and vice versa, because I think we get this idea that NIL, 5-star athletes, 200,000 followers, 1 million followers. And so on the brand side, they want to get involved with these athletes, but it's oh man, we don't have the budget for, we don't have the $1 million budget, we don't have the $10,000 budget, so we can't even get these, get these athletes. We can't, so we're not even gonna put our hat in the ring because we don't believe that we can get these athletes. And same thing with the athletes, is whereas they see NIL and it's, oh well, again, I don't have 500,000 followers, I guess NIL isn't for me because I'm not getting these big time deals. Where it's a lot of times it's just about reaching out. A lot of times it's about, hey, this is who I am. I am a gymnastics. I come from this small town. I'm going to a school that's also in a small town. A lot of these brands, they want community. They want engagement. Are you engaged with your community? It could be a small community. If you have 5,000 followers, but every time you post, it's engaging, people are interacting. That's what they want to see. That's what these brands want to see. And a lot of times it's the smaller, the local brands that really want to work with some of these athletes, especially at colleges, because if you're in a college town, well, a lot of these college towns, they're associated with the school or some of these athletes. And so if they're able to, hey, bring in the lacrosse player, the star lacrosse player every Tuesday for karaoke night at, the said bar right across the street from the school, that creates buzz, that creates engagement. Right now, as a brand, I didn't spend $10,000 on this athlete, and maybe this athlete just gets free food every Tuesday. So it's a smaller NIL deal, but it's bringing engagement, it's bringing community, it's bringing buzz to their name. That's what these brands want. And it's really about the athlete just kind of reaching out, understanding that, being aware that, hey, I may not have 200,000 followers yet, but I can get there. And in the meantime, I just want to engage and have stories, right? If you have a story to tell, people want to hear it. Tell that story and brands will come, because again, brands want to work with athletes. They really do. They just don't know how to yet.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's about authenticity. We are looking for authenticity in a world where we have a lot of AI. Is this real? What's,
And it's hard.
It's hard. So you've got to figure out, number one, who are you? And then who do you want to be? And how do you put yourself out there in an authentic, real way that actually engages people to to connect with you. I think that's so important. So that would be the one little tidbit I'd throw into that. KJ, do you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just marketing 101. Like, do you have a story? Are you relatable? Because like, why do you buy anything? Like, you fall in love with the brand because of, their story, or you can relate to them in some capacity. And everybody has a unique story. So I think it's just learning the art of storytelling, by the way, which is a good book. You should read it. But I think brands are just looking for people they can tell their story to, or giving people the platform to tell their story, and people that are going to relate are going to naturally attract to it. I think it's just that simple.
My wife, she works in the influencer space. She's been doing it for I think like 5-6 years now, and she's worked with all kinds of brands, large, small, and a lot of what she says, what they want for her clients is the community, but consistency. Are you consistent in posting? Are you consistent in interacting? Are you consistent in engagement? Are you consistent? Is your page scattered with all kinds of random things, or are you pretty consistent? Hey, I talk about my sport all day, every day, or hey, I talk about my hobbies or something along those lines. Are you consistent with your storytelling? What you are bringing to the table. They want consistency.
Yeah, that's so true. So this will go to both of you. This is another great question that came in. What is the biggest character gap you see in athletes who don't make it to the next level? Like, what's the real reason why they fell short?
That is a good question.
Biggest reason they fell short in terms of character.
That's a good question. I don't know if this goes to character. I'm really big on accountability, and I don't know if that is like maybe the biggest thing, but I think it's a big thing because as being a former athlete, there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, I put in work. I'm doing so good. I'm tired, and it's like I can look back on my time as, did I really work hard, or was I really giving it my all? And I think I have to hold myself accountable. And at times, there's times where I didn't hold myself accountable, where it's like, I can miss that practice and it'll be good, or I can fake that rep, right? I can give 80% instead of giving 100%, but only I will actually know. So it's not that big a deal, but holding myself accountable and holding, as an athlete, if you're able to hold yourself accountable, I think it builds, the discipline. It builds certain things that you can then be honest with yourself and fix and work on and improve. Because if you're not holding yourself accountable, then you probably don't think anything's wrong with your swing, with your pitch, with your tackling, with whatever skill. So are you really growing? Are you really developing? Or are you just, I'm good, because again, you're not holding yourself accountable. And so I don't know if that's necessarily a character trait per se, but I would say accountability.
Yeah. And I would say, I was just thinking it'll probably, for me, be pride, ego, or the fear of failure. I think sometimes you can become really, really prideful as an athlete. Like, let's say you did make it to a certain level and you're like, man, like I made it here, like I'm killing it, whatever. Like I tell my kids I train, I'm like, look, dude, you might be good at your school, but like there's a hundreds of other thousands of athletes that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing. Like, what is going to be the difference between you and them? Like, is it you watch film a little bit longer? Is it you recover and take ice baths, and like you have to do the smallest little things, because to get to the next level is already hard in itself. Like, skill alone is not going to get you there. And then sometimes people think their ego's too big to do the small things, like show up to class on time, make good grades, and things like that. And then the fear of failure, I think, stops a lot of people because they fear of, what if I throw everything I have into this thing and then I still don't make it? And I think that in itself what make people pull back, and then they have the excuse of, well, I didn't give it my all, that's why I didn't make it. So they kind of give themselves a backdoor way, like out of, if they don't make it. So I think those three things are probably my three biggest reasons why people don't make it to that next level, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's you both brought up really great points. Our second in our framework is accountability. It's like you have to hold yourself accountable in every moment. And, just like reps on the field, like staying in the truth of who you are in your character requires you not ever becoming lazy. And it's not about a hypervigilance, but it's an awareness of that I always have to be on, the days that it's like, I've done this for 10 days in a row. Like one day off isn't going to make or break me. And it's not about having rest or anything like that, but it's an understanding of like, if I know this is important to me, should I be doing this right now? And if your answer is yes, then you should be doing that. And so we can negotiate with ourselves a lot. I think the person we often gaslight the most is ourselves. Like we talk ourselves in and out of things rather easily. And to be excellent, to be great, requires a next level of accountability for yourself. To your point, Aaron, of being truly accountable to yourself and going, hey, this is who I want to be. How does this person show up every day? And I think that's what that goes on when we're talking about character. That's not just the reps out on the field. We have a show called Path to the Pros. And we had this guy on this last Thursday, and he was like, there's 5%, and these are already elite athletes in the NFL that are freaks of nature. The rest of them outwork everybody else. So that to me says they have character because they've learned how to train what they want to show up when they want in all of those moments. And the same goes when you're now got NIL deals and have to fulfill things. That's going to reflect your character of like, can I show up and be disciplined with what these brands want? And so we don't think about it like that oftentimes. And so I think there's a reframe that has to happen to build this foundation so that there's sustainability within these athletes' actions.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing. I think another thing why people don't make it is a lack of confidence in the sense of, let's just say, for example, I said, I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week for this year, right? And then I get up one day and I'm like, I'm not going to the gym today. And I only go 2 days. I just kind of broke a promise with myself. And if I can't trust myself to fulfill like the promises I made, to what I wanted to do, how can I do that, for my team or with the NIL deal or whatever the case may be? And I think self-confidence is a major, major thing for athletes, because if you have these goals for yourself and you don't reach them, that can like kill your confidence as an athlete. So I think that's another thing why people don't get to that level, is because they break little promises with themselves along the way, and it just chips away at their confidence.
I think you had said something, KJ, very important, and I want to bring it to the NBA Finals. And watching, Chet Holmgren, right? Like, a very confident person, but whatever the reason being, when he goes up against Victor Wembanyama, I mean, he is a monster, no doubt about it. He's phenomenal. But when he goes up against him, we always have this discussion about confidence. It seems like he lacks it. Where did it go? What happened? And, to where his game goes from an all NBA player type of game to very reserved to very what's happening. 4 points in the game 7, right? And that goes to confidence. It seems as if it goes to the lack of confidence. There's two things that I like to say that I always tell my kids is preparation builds confidence, and trust your work, right?
Yes.
And so as an athlete, if you're trusting your work that you've done year in and year out, that same shot that you took every day for 10 years, that same, track that you ran on, that same softball that you hit over and over and over for most of your life, that's the confidence, right? Like, how to hit a softball or a baseball or shoot a basketball. Just go back to that. But KJ, as you said, it's the fear of failure. It's the fear of, what if I swing and miss, or I shoot that shot and I miss, right? What does everyone say? So the fear, the fear of failing, the fear of, of not, meeting your expectation, well, that goes hand in hand with confidence. That's why we lack that confidence, because we don't feel as if we can, do that thing, even though we've done it over and over and over. So trust your work.
Yep.
And all will be fine.
Yep. Yeah. If you are truly putting in the work, doing all the right things, you should be able to step back and trust that and go, you know what, I've done this thousands of times. I got this right now. And so that when you're cutting corners, when you haven't done what you're supposed to be doing, that's what creates the doubt. And so, yeah, Kobe Bryant probably never lacked out, because the dude shot 5,000 shots a day, or that's Stephen Curry. Like, and granted, they're going to only make a small percentage, but guess what? They're going to trust themselves to do it when the moment counts, because they've done it so many times. And they didn't go, oh, well, I went to the gym yesterday and shot 5,000 shots. Nope, I'm going back today, and I'm going back tomorrow, and I'll be there an hour before the teammates get there, because I'm the leader. I'm setting the standard on the team. And so, those are behaviors. That's not talent, that's discipline. That's a character trait that enabled that person to then use their talent and their skills to excel.
Yep. And I think all of that ties into the ability to get back to ground zero, right? Like, something happens, you miss a shot, you strike out, you drop a pass. How quickly can you get back to a stable, equilibrium state of mind, to where, oh man, I missed that shot or whatever, that's not me, I'm gonna just go back and get to the next rep or the next play. I think the ability for athletes to just reset after each play, whether it's good or bad, just get back to ground zero and go at it again. I think that's what separates a lot of good and great athletes, just people in general, in life, in sports. I think getting back to just that ground zero of, I think that's really important.
That's huge. I think so. On that, go ahead, Aaron, because one of the questions is kind of like, I think I think coaches are observing that in the recruiting process, in the, whatever that is, the NIL evaluation, they're watching your patterns of behavior. And so maybe you both can speak to that, of, that ability to be coachable, to like zero in on the moment, kind of that goldfish mindset a lot of people talk about, of like, you just forgot what just happened and you're back to it, whether it's a high, I hit a home run and now I'm at the next at bat, or what, I struck out the last time, or whatever the case might be. Like, maybe both of you can talk about, like, how do athletes really work on that presencing in the forgetting the good or the bad?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to say this, until the cows come home. I think there needs to be a balance, right? I think that you have to, like, as a coach or as a player, as a teammate, I love to see the fiery emotion. I was one of those where I'm yelling and screaming, right? If I get a big play or a big time run, yeah, right. Like, I love that passion. However, that passion can take it over the top and you're too aggressive, you're doing the most, or it can be one of those where you take something so hard so now your shoulders are down, your head is down, right? And so it can be a positive or it can be a bad thing. And so I think there has to be a balance. But Aaron, to your point, you are correct. The coaches and your teammates and the recruiters, they see all of that stuff. And so that is why character is so important now. It's because it's not just about your skill set. When a coach or now general managers at some schools or an athletic director, when they're recruiting and it's like, do I give this person $500,000 or do I give this person $500,000? And you have to make a choice. Well, now they're splitting hairs. Well, they're both great, passers. They both can catch the football. They're both great route runners. Well, what separates them? Oh, well, this guy, he's a 4.0 student, he does this, and this, I called his coach. He's coachable. He's first one there, last one at right. He works on his body. Whereas the other athlete may be a great athlete, a phenomenal athlete, but they, rarely show up to practice, right? They're not as coachable. Well, if I'm giving all this money away, I have to make sure I'm giving it to someone who I know is going to show up. So that is now a part of the conversation. Will they be coachable? And so it's you now have to balance, again, not just my ability to play, but my, how am I presenting? How am I being perceived? Am I a good teammate? Coaches, if you're in a, travel ball or, I've talked to a few coaches. And now college coaches are asking these travel ball coaches, hey, how is their interactions with the team? How do they get along? How are they when they travel? Are they dependent on their parents? Right? All these are questions that are being asked by recruiters to these coaches, because again, that's something that they have to deal with now, because again, all this money being put in there.
Yeah. Would you add anything to that, KJ?
No, I think Aaron hit it right on the head. Like I think everything he said is right on. I think just the best way for me to break it down and how they can work on it is if you make a play, it's what's expected. Like it's just like, don't look for an extra, pat on the back or, anything like that, or don't, praise yourself in a sense. Like it's just what I do. Right. And if it's a bad play, it's just, that's not what I do. Wash it away. I'm gonna get back to what I do. Right. And it's just having that, it goes back to confidence. Like if you put in enough reps, you put in enough work, you can always get back to that state, whether it's good or bad. Like, okay, I made a touchdown. I have the confidence I can do that again at any point. If I drop a ball, okay, I've caught a million passes, whatever. That's just one of the outliers. I'm back to, me. So I think, and that's just in training. If you mess up a drill, don't, put your head down and be just like, all right, let's just snap out of it, redo it again.
Yeah.
I think athletes now, they're under a major microscope, and there's film, we're recording for social media, all these things. And so when you lack a rep, when you cheat yourself, a lot of times the coach isn't going to call you out on it. They're going to be okay, and they'll make that note of it. Okay, this person, he didn't go all the way through the line. They didn't put in as much work as someone else. So they probably won't tell you, right? That's up to you. But, understand that coaches, teammates, recruiters, parents, they're watching. At practice, they're watching. They're watching your improvement. Oh, did this person get better from last week to this week? From last summer to this summer? People are always watching. You're always being evaluated, especially nowadays. And so I think it, with that is always putting your best foot forward when you can. And I think it goes back to character. Don't cheat yourself. right? Like because again, a coach won't always be there to get in you to, hey, do this rep hard, all this and all that. They'll just pull you. I don't have to deal with this. I just won't play you. I'll play the one person who's putting in work, who's working hard, who I see their development. And so I think it's as a young athlete, I would say understand that you are under a microscope and perform, play, practice like someone's watching, because I promise you someone is watching. And that practice, that performance could be, how people perceive you. That one practice, that one clip could be how this recruiter for UCLA perceives you. And how did you look on that film? Were you lagging? Were you slacking off? Were you talking when you should have been paying attention? Those are the things that matter.
Yep. Yeah, they're evaluating everything. They're evaluating how you treat your teammates, how you talk to your coaches, how you talk to your parents, like everything. How do you walk in? Do you have your shoes on? Are you ready? Do you look like you just rolled out of bed? I mean, they're evaluating everything about you, to your point, Aaron, all the time.
Yeah, I think that scene, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, who's also a Fullerton grad, by the way, but
Shout out, we like Kevin Costner.
he on draft day, and they were when the quarterback Bo Callahan, and he was, they were asking questions about his birthday, about his birthday party, and did his teammates attend, and all those things, and it pointed to his character, the type of teammate that he was, the type of leader that he is, and how people perceive him. And we think about, well, those are what the NFL evaluators, they're diving deep. They're trying to get anything and everything that they can. Well, this is now, NIL has brought in the business of college sports. And so these schools, they're thinking like a business. They're thinking like a professional organization. So now they're evaluating talent like a professional organization. They have general managers for a reason. So these are the questions that they're asking these coaches. These are the questions that they're asking the people around you. So you may not even know that you're being, that people are asking all these questions are about you, but but understand that all your coaches are being asked these questions. What kind of teammate is he or her? What is their work ethic? If they had a birthday, party, where their teammates show up? And based on those answers, that can determine whether or not the offer of $1 million comes in, or if it's we'll pass and offer this other quarterback or this other receiver big time NIL.
Yep. Totally agree. Okay, KJ.
Yeah. So earlier I kind of preluded to this, what I like to call CASH, and it stands for knowledge, attitude, standards, and habits. I apply this to my financial practices and with my athletes. And just starting out with knowledge, you have to understand what is going on, what opportunity is in front of you, and just be aware of what you can and can't do, and things like that. Your attitude, how do you respond to situations? Like, how do you respond to adversity? How do you respond to having a bad day? How do you respond to having a good day? And then standards, like, what do you stand for? Like, what do you believe in? Who are you as a person? And can you uphold that standard, whatever it may be? And then habits, how do you reinforce all the things above every single day? Right. So are you waking up on time? Are you going to the gym consistently? Are you, studying? Are you, making sure you're drinking your water? Right. Like, what are the habits that you don't have to think about that are just kind of on autopilot? So that's just a little framework I like to use. These are really, really essential to just character development and just a way of living life. So yeah, that's all I have to say about CASH for now.
And KJ, how do you use that? Like, how do you apply that to your athletes? Like, is it something that you're talking to, or reiterating to them every day? Is it something that you have them right on their, on their wall? How should they be incorporating? How can they incorporate? How do you recommend people incorporate that?
Yeah, so starting out with knowledge is, with my athletes, I always like to teach them why we're doing something specifically. It's never just going to be, hey, we're doing this, just do it. I'm going to walk you through the reasons why we're doing this so you can understand. And now you can say, okay, this is the situations I need to put myself in to apply this, whether it's a drill, whether it's just me talking to them about life. Like, knowledge is the basis of everything, because if you don't know what's going on, you can't really do the other things, right? You're kind of just shooting in the dark. Attitude, I'm always talking to them about body language, demeanor, how they present themselves in public, right? Like, are you walking out the house, with, like, are you presentable when you walk out the house, right? You can, throw on some
Lights
slacks
on or something.
yeah, like, you can be comfortable, but are you looking presentable at all times? And then standards, like, what are the things that you want to do? With every athlete, I sit down and say, hey, what are your goals? What do you want to get to? Like, what are your aspirations? And we sit down and we kind of reverse engineer, like, okay, what are the things you need to put in place to make this happen? And then I asked them, are you willing to do this? It's a yes or no question, right? Like, these are the things you have to do. Are you going to do them? Yes or no? Okay. Yes. Okay. Now let's talk about the habits to get to these goals that we need to do every single day. We do that in training. We do that in schoolwork. We do that in personal development. I'm really big on personal development with my guys, because I always tell them you can't outperform or out-earn or outdo your identity as a person.
Yep.
Right. So, like, you have to constantly grow. If you want to be a professional athlete, if you want to be a D1 football player, you have to have the identity to do that. Right. Like, you can't work out and perform like a JV player, but say, hey, I want to go Division I and play for University of Texas. Like, it won't match up, right? Or you can fool yourself there, but then once you get to that level, you get to that stage, you fall off, which we see that a lot too. We see a lot of kids who are super athletic and they kind of just like wow their way to that stage, and then they get to that stage and then they kind of fall off because their identity as a person didn't go with them. It only took them so far. So that's how I would say I implement those with my guys. And it's just sitting down, knowing what you want to do, figuring out the X's and O's of it, if you will, and then putting together a game plan and a roadmap to get there.
And KJ, do you also help these young athletes and help your athletes kind of create that, that plan, that game plan as to, hey, you're now transitioning to, the D1 or the D2 level, like, here, hey, let's sit down, let's talk. How do you, how do you envision yourself? What kind of athlete do you want to be? Let's sit down, let's kind of create this game plan. So do you do that with your athletes? And if so, kind of what does that kind of look like? How important is planning kind of prior to, going from JV to varsity to, college, or, how is that, how important is that?
Yeah, that's super important. And I do that with all my athletes, because at every stage, there's going to be a different level of expectations for you as the player, right? Whether that's on or off the field, right? And sitting down and just being real with them. Like, look, college is a business, especially my guys going to college. Like, hey, it's a business, dude. Like, this coach will come to your school. He will tell you everything he likes about you, whatever the case may be. He's going to try to make you feel good about yourself because he's recruiting you to join their organization, right? So I'm like, take that part out of it and look at the institution that you're going to. If you were to not play a snap of football, would you enjoy going to that school?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they're like, okay, now let's start thinking like outside of the box. Like, what is my career path? Does this school excel in putting people in, this career path and jobs? Okay. Yes. Okay. That's a check mark. Right. So it's just taking the sports out of it and looking at it like, hey, look, they're going to want to use you for your athletic abilities, you need to be able to leverage and use the institutions to get to where you want to get to. Like understanding your alumni programs, just understanding like there's more to it than just going to practice, going to class, and playing sports. Like, because the moment you aren't performing or they feel like they can go get a better player, guess what? Going to the sideline.
Yep.
Right? Like you're going to the sideline, and how you handle that is going to determine like your trajectory after that. Like, do you say, okay, oh, it's the coach's fault, or it's, man, I just need to get better. I need to work on my craft, right? And see the bigger picture of things. Hey, I still like this school. If football doesn't work out, I still have my, my back door or my plan B. I hate saying plan B, but I have an exit plan. I have an exit strategy, if you will. So yeah, I talk to my guys about that all the time, because I never want them to get into a situation where they're like, man, I thought it was going to be this, and then it's not that, and then now they're upset, and then now they don't know what to do with themselves because they thought it was going to go this way and then it didn't. And I'm like, dude, that's life. You're going to always have a plan to, oh my God, I'm going to do this, and then curveball. And you're like, what do I do now? So I always try to put them in positions to be able to pivot, right? Pivot, know their options, know how to maneuver through situations, and just, be better people and attack adversity as this is just an opportunity for me to grow. Like, life happens for me, not to me. That's why I tell my guys all the time. So
perfect. I do have a question for both you, KJ, and Aaron. I would say Thomas, but I do think I know what Thomas would say and how he would say it. But KJ, you had brought up you had said something that kind of sparked this question, and we had talked about accountability prior, earlier on this. And so, this question is for the audience as well, and how I've seen it and my approach when I'm talking to, either parents or student athletes, is I like to be transparent. And I try not, to beat around the bush. I try to be direct. And although I know that that student athlete or that parent or someone may not like what I'm telling them, I find it that it is just easier. And generally, most people just prefer you to be direct. Now, this question is for, the audience and the both of you. Like, how do you approach, I guess, a hard conversation, Aaron, especially if it's like, your character needs work, right? Like, it's not the greatest, right? If you're trying to get here, we need to change it all around. Like, how do you have those hard conversations with, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old kid and their family, which, let's be honest, a lot of parents now think that their kid is the best thing since sliced bread. And so it's hard to hold ourselves accountable. It's hard to kind of have those hard conversations with, these athletes, with the coaches, or, because again, it's met with, well, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that. And so, is your approach very, up forward, transparent? And if so, how do those conversations go? And do you see that most people like that, even though it seems kind of, bad? But again, I've seen it, as people are receptive to the honesty and the transparency.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, KJ?
Okay,
I'm gonna throw a curveball at this one, so you go first.
I'll think about it. I think, for one, you have to understand who you're talking to. You have to build that relationship and understand who the person is that you're talking to and how they receive information. I think sometimes you can be very direct and just tell them flat out, like, hey, like, these are the things that need to change. You're not doing this. This is why you're here. And then sometimes you have to ask questions that make them arrive to the, like, what's the word, that arrive to understand like where they're lacking, right? Like, so I'll ask, like, hey, what do you think? I'm like, who's your favorite player? I don't know, Justin Jefferson. Do you think Justin Jefferson's like doing like this?
Bad boy right there.
And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just kind of go on like asking them questions, and then they're like, oh, I get it. Right. And I think some kids are stubborn when you're trying to like you know, they like, oh, he's just talking down to me. Like, okay, no, I'm gonna just ask you some questions, and you'll get to the point where I'm asking you these questions, and you internally you're like, oh my God, like I need to make these changes. So I think it's just understanding who you're talking to and how to approach it. Me personally, I like being direct because that's how I want people to be with me. But like I said, you just have to understand who you're talking to and learn how to navigate around it.
I think it's kind of twofold for me. So very similar. Number one, I would say if they're asking for feedback, I would be direct. You know, if they're like, what do I need to change? Just be honest. Tell them here's what I'm observing. If you can't receive that, okay, player, we got some internal work to do because you just asked for that. So can you absorb it now? If they're not seeking feedback, I think KJ's approach of like getting really curious with them to go, okay, do you understand what the gap is right here? Because I will tell you, in all the years that I've done this at various levels, C-suite executives, when they can answer the question and know what the problem is internally, that's when the power of the unlock happens, because then they have radical ownership of like, I just saw that. I see it. It's not Aaron telling me I have to be better at this. Because if I'm just telling them, and trust me, I've been there in my leadership at various levels, I'm just going to tell them what to do, like get it. And then it's like, why are we still having this conversation? Because they haven't arrived of that's theirs to own. And that's something that they have to change internally. And so my approach, that's why, you know, Thomas and I are probably yin and yang here, is I'm going to get way more curious with them because I want them to see, okay, this is where the problem lies. And then it's like, what's your solution to this problem? How do you want to go about solving this? Because when I say I want to solve it by X, Y, and Z, guess about the level of accountability there is of like, I've chosen the action to resolve this versus Aaron told me to do this and I'm not really bought into this. You know, like, I don't really think that's how I'm going to solve this. So like, I'm really big into, we got to put the onus back on the person that we're coaching, that we're working with. And this is why, for all you watching, all you listening, every human being on this planet should have a coach of some sort that is helping you discover you. This is the personal development element KJ was talking about, that actually allows you to step into the fullest expression of yourself. But you need somebody that you're accountable to, that is reflecting back to you, that's helping you move through what are your roadblocks. Most people don't get there on their own. Most people are not actualized enough to guide themselves to go, okay, I can do all this by myself. It's just, that's not how we're built as human beings. And so, I think everybody should be working with a coach at some level, parents included. You know, how do you parent better? How do you make sure you're not giving your kids the answer? How do you allow them to have consequences? I mean, we could stay on here all night. But I would say it's better to ask questions and them having the self-realization than telling, but that's just in my own experience. But if somebody said, hey, Aaron, what would you do here? And what have you observed in me? Then I'm going to just be direct and tell them.
Yep.
So that's my long-winded answer to that one. So you guys, this is fun. You guys, we're going to be back in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, whatever questions we have, we can field whatever's come out in based off this one. We'll have our next layer, our next brick to this. Where can people find both of you in the meantime? And then we'll be back on the 14th of June.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm always on LinkedIn. Aaron Ray is my LinkedIn. I think it's Aaron Ray, JD LLM. You can also find me at 2percentconsulting.com. That is my company. I also, help consult and do all those things. And so, you'll find me at those 2 locations. I also have an Instagram, The Law Father. I don't do too much NIL conversation about those. I'm starting to dabble into it a bit more, but most of my NIL conversation, you'll find that on LinkedIn or on my website, 2percentconsulting.com.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn at KJ Peoples. If you want to just get to know me as a person, you can find me on Instagram at KJ Peoples Official. And if you're looking for more of the performance side of things and how I work with athletes, you can find me on Instagram at proform_elite_HP. Or you can find me at proformelitehp.com.
I'm going to try to capture all of that. If not, I'll put it in the show notes after we click out of here. I'm not a real great, that was not my skill set. So if I was ever meant to be a court reporter, not happening. I don't listen and type very well because I'm too engaged. And for all of you that follow Thomas and I, we're on blueprintbluechip.com. Check us out there. You can find us both on LinkedIn, social media, and we will be back in 2 weeks. So keep the questions coming. We'll filter those in, and we'll probably Monday or Tuesday of this week have our topic of what we're going to talk about the next time. So you guys have lots of time to sign up and come in and start asking your questions now. And then I will be emailing a copy of the replay to everybody that signed up that's on our mailing list. So lots more to come. So we appreciate you guys. Yes. Thanks again. This was awesome.
Yes, please ask questions. Please have questions. You know, tax, financial, contracts, agents, character building, planning, long-term planning. I think those are, you know, we're trying to hit any and all topics regarding NIL. This is just show 1, episode 1. So, you know, every 2 weeks you can find us back here. We're super excited. Drop those questions in. And, you know, let us, you know, help guide you on this journey.
Yeah. And if there's anybody out there, athletic directors, coaches, parents, if there's a topic you want covered, again, send that to us. We're happy to accommodate our audience. So we look forward to it. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.